Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's all right. Just going to try something here, guys, for a second. While here, Bobby Burgess wanted to have a little bit of the Moscow Nights. Just going to try something, guys, because I got these new lights and I want to see what it looks like live. So for a second here, we're just going to play a little anthem of the show.
Allez-y.
And we're going to this. Welcome aboard the Shortwave show, guys. So let me just check out something. Look at that. Shortwave hell. Kind of nice. Just to see the different colors that it makes. Purple to blue. Cool. I'm gonna leave it like I don't know. Let's see. Something out there. I almost feel like leaving it kind of in this range here of colors. That'd be nice. Welcome aboard, everybody. So this is the Shortwave show. Yes, the colors are different. I am playing around with my new lights, seeing what the effect is. There's going to be more of them, actually, as time goes by. So I'm going to be checking that out. And this is okay here. This is okay here. So I guess we can start. So welcome aboard, everybody. This is the Shortwave radio stream. We actually talk about radio and have fun talking about any aspect of radio, shortwave radio to medium wave to long wave to sometimes we go into the VHF, UHF stuff. So nice to be here. There was a Zoom meeting for the CIDX today. So anybody that is a member of the Canadian International DX Club once a month, there's the meetup, and today was the meetup. So hope that some of you have enjoyed that today. It's let me see the faces of some of the people here, which is cool. And we had tons of interesting subjects today. One that is kind of interesting, a lot of talk about it, and we'll talk about that in a short while about the use of online receivers for logging, which is kind of interesting. Apart from that, of course, my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. We are live twice a week on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's Thursday for a lot of people around the world at 0 hours UTC. We are live also on Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 20 hours UTC. And of course, we talk about radio, as I said. There's a fantastic chat room with some amazing people, which are here and enjoy radio. And they're really cool people that have a lot of fun sharing with others, helping others. It's really, really nice. Some people are brand new to the hobby, don't know what exactly what it's all about. Some people are seasoned veterans, been doing radio for years and years and years. Some are experts, and some some subjects or many subjects. Some are just, want to learn all the time, want to have fun all the time. So it's one of those cool things, I guess, and really a lot of fun to have these fantastic people here. So you can join in. You can say hi through the email if you don't have you're not in the chat room. Email is officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. And so we're just going to check out here if anybody's here. Nobody's logged in right now. So I will be checking the email from time to time. Anybody wants to say hi, officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. And there's a Facebook group, has the same name as this place, which is Official SWL Channel. When all of this is over, when you have been an hour without talking radio with somebody, you can go to the Facebook group, share with others, share what you're listening, have fun there. That's the place where the party continues when the party is over here. So nice to have everybody on board. I am having my beer, so cheers, everybody. It's a don de Dieu, gift from God. So cheers. I hope everybody's going to enjoy the show today. And we'll be, of course, tuning around different signals, checking out what's on the bands. What is in the chat room? We have Bobby Burgess. Nice to have you here. WA5107 SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana. René Charbonnier from Radio Classic Sunday. Nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Pretty cool stuff. Glenn, nice to have you on board. KB9IN. And David in Barcelona. EA3IEK / also a listener call sign EA4998URE. SWL. Nice to have you here from Barcelona, Spain. Jeff Williams, nice to have you here from Southwest Cornwall, UK. Michael Thompson, nice to have you on board from New Jersey and to NLQ. Glenn has got Radio Exterior de España, 15520. Let's check it out here. That frequency is off and on in the past couple of weeks. What do we have? 15520. Do I see it here? Let's check it out. Barely making it. Barely making it. Let's try 11940. That's one's there. One that I haven't heard yet. I'm hearing it. 17855. Actually, not too bad. Radio Exterior de España, 17855. That's actually the frequency for North America. So 17855 for Radio Exterior de España. So nice to see that Europe to North America on 16 meters is working. Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. Randall Klontz from Northeast Illinois. Frank Tillman, nice to have you on board. 45 unit, nice to have you here. PA1SBM, Alex, nice to have you on board from the Netherlands. Michael Thompson is working some FT8 on 20 meter band. Joe, nice to have you here from Chicago area. Nick Amendo, nice to have you here from Romania. Delphi Chariot, nice to have you on board from Metro Detroit. Cool. Skip, nice to have you on board. He says he's not buying gas in New Jersey. That's N2EI. Yeah, with that pipeline problem that was closed down, I was seeing all of these crazy people putting gas in every type of container they can ever imagine. Man, people are so dumb. I can tell you that. Brad and Amarillo, nice to have you on board. SWL listener, nice to have you here from Northwest England. Nice to have you here, my friend. Rufus, nice to have you on board from pleasant Laurentian Valley, Ontario. However, the black flies and skeeters are starting now. Yeah, that's the time of year when it's if you have a lot of wooded area around you, it's not the best. Beautiful weather here. I had the Zoom meeting. I actually tried something. I wondered if it was going to stay stable and work, and it seemed to have worked well. I went to the CIDX Zoom meeting, sitting outside on the back balcony, which is quite far from my router, actually. And I was, thinking that because it's so far and the signal was rather weak, that I wouldn't be able. But actually, it seemed to have worked pretty fine. So really cool. I was really happy with that. So that Zoom meeting went from outside, and of course, if it's continues to be beautiful, we're going to have some more outside. Actually, Wednesday, it's supposed to be in the upper 80s, which means maybe I could set up in the backyard and do the show from outside. That would be kind of interesting. So we're going to see that on Wednesday. It depends on how things go. Richard says, back into shortwave listening after 50 years in upstate New York. Welcome back. And 50 years, you must notice that things have changed a lot, especially the noise, which is higher. And it's more difficult, more of a challenge to listen, but still a lot of stuff out there. TVDX, bonjour, j'espère que ça va bien, toi? Ça va très bien. What else do we have? So TVDXer is just not very far from Montreal, actually. What else do we have? Joe Tyson, nice to have you here from North Carolina, KM4WRQ. Kathleen, nice to have you here from Germany. We have Aerial Imaging, nice to have you here. PLF Radio, bonsoir. J'espère que ça va bien à Lyon, en France. Toujours un plaisir de t'avoir parmi nous. Esteban, ¿cómo está mi amigo? From the Canary Islands, EA8DLJ. Scott, nice to have you here from sunny Massachusetts. Christian Hohensteiner, nice to have you here from Germany. Keegan, XN80Xer, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. Anders Bollinder, nice to have you here from Sweden, Anders. What else do we have? Robert Cross, nice to have you on board. Body Sony SW77 this week. Needs a recapping. Needs doing it. Cool. Once that is fixed, you should have a pretty good radio. Bernie Dodge, nice to have you here. KD1BD from San Diego. We have Tarek, nice to have you here from Cairo, Egypt. SoCal, nice to have you here from California. Phil, AJ6II, nice to have you here. Tony Magnier, nice to have you on board from the south coast of Ireland. Canadian radio TV guy, nice to have you on board. Yeah, everybody's leaving because I put Moscow Nights in there. I'll say, oh man, the show started early today. Michael says I have a bunch of those Sylvania smart Wi-Fi. Yeah, they're kind of fun. They're kind of fun to play with, I gotta say. I'm happy. I'm gonna have more lighting installed also, so it's going to be very, very nice to check out. Hi, Brawler. Nice to have you here from Arkansas. Bobby Burgess says Moscow Nights, the official anthem of official SWL channel. Yeah, pretty much. Mobile Armored Strike Command. Nice to have you here. Tom DXer, WPE2QED from the Hudson Valley, New York. Tristan, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Yeah, it's the DX convention at the same time. Absolutely, Bobby. Tinit de Carthage, nice to have you on board from Tunisia. PLF Radio, Texan H501X will be available tomorrow. Yep, I'm ordering it as soon as the buy button works. So that's going to be that's going to be pretty cool to check it out. Christian Marcoux, rebonjour. J'espère que tu vas bien. Yes, we were in the Zoom meeting earlier also. Merci beaucoup, Tinit, pour les bons commentaires. J'espère que on va te voir régulièrement à l'émission également. Richard is from Albany, New York. Nope, nobody said hi through the email, not even Elizabeth today. I'm going to check out regularly. Today's figures, nice to have you on board. Let me check it out again, just to see if anybody says hi. But right now, nothing special. My downstairs neighbor that sent me a picture of Paul while he was staring at her window, down a window. Human 721, nice to have you on board. Loves this weird Chinese songs on shortwave. VT Radio, nice to have you here. Paul AA1SU from Essex Junction, Vermont. And he's going to be restoring is Zenith Transoceanic R600. Cool, restringing, actually. So that's cool. These are tricky to string. Andrew Simpson, nice to have you here from England. David in Barcelona says he's proud of both the official ham call and unofficial shortwave call sign. JDA Dakota, nice to have you on board. WA0113SWL. What do we have here? Joe Gomez, nice to have you here from San Diego, California. What else do we have? Mohammed, nice to have you here from Qatar. Cool. They have people from all around the world. Tony has Radio Exterior España 17855 plus 10 on the RSPDX and the ML830. Brad in Amarillo says just tried 17855 S7 to S9 over there. Cool. What else do we have? Hirofumi Yokoyama, good morning from Japan. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Dracar Noir, nice to have you on board. Dave Defoe, nice to have you here from Italy. We have M1MBZ, nice to have you on board. Mark Cope from Dallas, Texas, WA5153SWL. Nice to have you here. James Johnson from Florida, WA4493SWL. We have Mark Lindsay White, nice to have you here. ON0014SWL in Brussels. Pretty cool to have you here from Belgium, my friend. Mark Schmidt, nice to have you here from Maine. Rich is in North Carolina, beautiful weather. No online, no worries. Stay home and watch official shortwave stream. Parik Nolan, nice to have you here from Ireland. Drying here at the moment, but there was lots of rain earlier. Scott KC2C80, nice to have you on board from the wrong side of the tracks, North Boston, New York. David says, yeah, with the Moscow Nights, it's like the show has started by the end. So now we're going to have to go backwards. We're going to have to talk about stuff, say hello to everybody in the end before we leave. Scott Cranston, apparently, yes, it is FM stereo through the speakers because there are two speakers on that H501. So apparently, yes, it's going to be very interesting to see. I can tell you that, and I can't wait to test it out. It's so fast shipping with an Onco that I won't be surprised that by midweek sometime this week. I'm going to have it actually in my hands to try out already. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Gary, nice to have you here from Oklahoma. We have, in total it's 4 speakers, but 2 on each side that are up front and visible. It's going to be interesting to see that radio. I can't wait to test it out. Richard, when I was listening in 1965, there were so many countries on at the same time. Yeah, when I started in 1982, and I still remember that you almost had to, choose who you're going to listen to because, there are too many at the same time for me. And one of the things I would do is I would note down my favorite programs. So that would dictate, okay, on Monday, it's the Mailbag Show on Radio Prague, and that's what I'm going to listen to. On, Tuesday, it's that show on HCJB, and I want to listen to at that time. And so I would kind of create a list of all the things I want to listen to, so that I can, I would relate to that. And of course, after some time, you don't need the list anymore. Sorry, guys. My belt was killing me. So anyways, it was really, really that. What I would do sometimes in evenings when I didn't know exactly what to listen to, I'd slowly go through the band and listen to everything in English. And when it sounded interesting for the subject they were talking about or whatever, I'd just stay there. But indeed, you had to make a choice. What are you going to listen to tonight? Am I choosing Radio Prague, Radio Romania, Radio Yugoslavia, Radio Berlin, Radio Moscow, HCJB, Voice of America, the BBC? What am I going to choose tonight? What am I going to listen to? There's so many things to pick out. A lot of it was, I was very much into, the DX thing, trying to get stations from as far away as possible. So it happened many times that my pick was not necessarily because of a program, but my pick was maybe because of the distance of the station or whatever station, or if I had a unusual station that I almost never hear, I'd be able to tune around and stay there to listen to. So there are nights when the only thing I would listen to was Radio Australia because it was at the other side of the world. So there's a lot of that, and with all the choice that we had, there's always something unusual or something interesting on a program somewhere. That's for sure. Of course, there were the DX shows, which were shows that I really enjoyed listening a lot. And so, the DX Party Line on HCJB and Ham Radio Today and anything mailbag. I love the mailbag shows because the mailbag shows, what was cool about the mailbag shows was it finally, somebody's cutting the grass. The mailbag shows would show to me that I'm not alone. There are other people listening, and I always found that cool to hear about other people that made me feel like, oh, this is cool. There's other people doing the hobby. It's not just me. And I really like to listen to. I would chase, and a lot of the mailbag shows actually played on Sunday on many stations. So I would chase around the stations with mailbag shows, and back then, it was more difficult to get schedules. So when you had schedules, usually they were kind of outdated a little bit, and plus the fact that I didn't know what I was doing half of the time. So you try something that oh, look at that, there's that on 6,000 kilohertz. Yeah, it's mid-afternoon. You're not going to hear it, but I didn't know back then. I would just still try it anyways. But sure, things did change, but I'm still having a lot of fun with the radios and listening with the radios. Blank Picker, nice to have you here, Rob, in Connecticut, W0RAB. John Ward, nice to have you on board from North Bay. James Johnson picked up a Superstar 3900 with a matched amp, amazing radio, and my noise floor doesn't get in the way of reception. So cool. What else do we have? What else? Chris66, nice to have you here from Kentucky. We have Richard, Radio Australia had mailbag on every Sunday morning. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. Matt Radio DXer, nice to have you on board from the UK. Matt, MDK2, nice to have you on board from Denver, Colorado. Here it's sunny and 24 degrees Celsius, which is mid-70s. Almost a little past mid-70s. So it's kind of a beautiful day, and all week this week. Which, of course, makes me think that I will be installing the air conditioning soon. And probably be doing that tomorrow. Sheldon Harvey from Greenfield Park, Quebec. And he had a little experiment where he... if you guys want to do it here in the chat room, just out of curiosity, how many radios do you guys have? That was a fun question we had at the CIDX meeting, Zoom meeting, which was how many radios everybody had. So if you guys want to just put the number, no need to explain anything, just, and just average. If you're not sure, just, think about it quickly. And it's like, how many radios do you have? So I came up, because I actually counted them, and I'm sure I'm missing out on some. I came up with a whopping 102 radios in my collection here. So that is something. So yes, I am a crazy guy, and that's why maybe you're watching me, because I'm the crazy guy and the craziest of all. But there's a couple of guys with some really good numbers out there, and some of them with, a high number of radios, but expensive radios. And so it was kind of interesting. So if you guys want to just put a number, a general number of how many radios you have, kind of be interesting to see how many everybody has here. I would have had a lot more if it wasn't for the fact that I did sell and depart from many radios over the years. So Tarek says, yeah, DX was really cool in the 80s. Local stations from Cameroon and Nigeria, HJB from Quito, Ecuador, Radio for Peace International from Costa Rica. Don't forget Radio Australia, 13-meter band, early mornings. Yeah, a lot of fun back then. That makes me think about something from those days. One of the fun things are, there was a lot of African stations on the tropical band, and a lot of Central South American stations also. And I remember how, I was always surprised at how the Africans would actually start fading in the afternoon, late afternoon, and a 60-meter band. We start hearing those signals, and there were quite a few also in the 41 and 31-meter band. And as night went through in Africa, stations started shutting down, and they were slowly replaced by all the stations from Central South America in the evenings here. That was kind of cool. Talking of Radio for Peace International, there's on WRMI, I heard it yesterday. It was the first time I heard it in a long time. There's a station, and it's not related to Radio for Peace International in Costa Rica, but there's a station calling themselves Radio for Peace International on WRMI. And one of the guys that is behind that often came here in the chat room over time. By chance, yesterday, I was outside with the Texan PL990X and tuned 15770 earlier than usual, because I usually tune it like from 21 to 22, because there's the English and French version of the Radio Prague program. But I don't usually tune earlier because it's almost always that weird thing called Supreme Master TV. But yesterday I tuned it early. It was half an hour early, and I thought, well, I'll listen to half an hour of because I had other things that I had to edit the show for CKUT, the International Radio Report. So I'll let that play while I'm editing the show. And I tuned in at 20:30, and there was talk in French. I was like, oh, this isn't French. And they ID'd as Radio for Peace International. And I had not heard their program over WRMI in a long time. So I guess they came back or I'm missing out on the days and times that they are actually on the air. Hey, Mark Elford, nice to have you on board. The lighting looks pro, Joe. Thank you very much, man. There'll be more lights, actually. So there's going to be even more of that. What else? David, good afternoon from Chicago area, KE6EX. Nice to have you on board. Bernie Dodge says, when I was 14, my letter was read on the mailbag program on Radio Australia. That same day, they read one from a 15-year-old in California. Since the transcript included addresses, we became pen pals. Oh, this is cool. That also something that I remembered. A lot of stations did that. If you guys remember, there were a lot of stations that actually would give out postal address of people that wanted to be pen pals. So you could actually write to somebody across the world. I never did any of that. Probably a lot to do with the fact that I was spending all the stamps on sending out reception reports and letters to stations, and I didn't have any money left for anything else. But a lot of stations had these pen pal things in their mailbag shows where they would say, well, we have this listener from India that wants to be a pen pal. If anybody wants to write in. I was always curious about one aspect of that is, when they would give out somebody's mailing address or postal address, I always wondered how many people actually wrote to a person like that. Was that something common? Would he receive dozens of letters, or because I'm wondering. Not everybody likes to write to people, and writing to somebody you don't know, that's another thing. I remember one of the funny stories is I remember a guy I think it's in India, if I remember well. The guy was, so you read his letter on the air, and that was on WRFR's mailbag show. And the guy says, well, I collect phone books from around the world. And I remember thinking, because, the phone book here was like this thick. It's like, I remember looking at the phone book. It's like, that must cost a hell of a lot of money to send that to India. And I still remember my dad, because, my dad didn't understand English, but I would sometimes translate stuff. Especially on Sundays, he was at home most of the time. And, I would tell him what I'm listening to. And I said, look, this guy is in India and he's collecting phone books. So my dad looks at me, he says, we should send him the phone book. I said, yeah, it's going to cost so much money to send a phone book. I don't think we're going to do that. But I still remember, I never forgot that guy mentioning, oh, I collect phone books. If you want to send me your phone books. Yeah, maybe a phone book of a small, town could be okay, but I could not imagine sending the phone book from Montreal. That was a hell of a book. It's funny also because I think about it today, and times change. Today, we don't want no one to have our phone numbers except important people that we connect with. And come to think about it, back then it's like everybody was in the phone book. you almost had no choice but be in the phone book. It's like if you were a subscriber to the phone line, you were in the phone book. And seems like back then nobody thought bad about the fact that everybody was in the phone book. Kind of interesting. This is what I like about, cell phone companies like here in Canada. A lot of them just keep the phone number records quiet and nobody knows. David says, what antennas do you use? So right now I've got 3 antennas up. One is my main antenna. It's the MLA30 Plus magnetic loop antenna, which is what's running now and with what I'm receiving. Radio Exterior de España, 17855. I have a discount that I've just installed a couple of weeks ago. And that's for VHF, UHF, and for my CB here, the Uniden Bearcat 980 SSB. And I do have another loop that I've now positioned in the backyard, which is my W6 LVP magnetic loop. I sent it in the back because the discount actually took its place. So, these are the 3 antennas, the main antennas that I'm using outdoors right now. Matt, hearing thunder, and it's 60 Fahrenheit. It's time to turn off the radios, disconnect the antennas. Richard using a Alecrafters S120 tube receiver. That was my first one. Cool. Michael Thompson, 15 radios. Cool. Matt, Radio DXer. How many radios? Too many. Tony Poloni has 4. Delphi Chariot has 4. David has 8. Osakama has 4 with his SDR. Bernie Dodge, 10. Anders says 2, soon to be 4. Dave Dufault is 7. Andrew Simpson is 3. Scott Cranston, including scanners, is 17. Yeah, every radio. When you count them, count everything. 17 radios. Matt, how many radios? 3 SDR, 2 vertibles, and a real rig. So that's 6. M1 MBZ is 13. Mark Cup, 8. Rich is 16. Keegan, at least a dozen. Bobby Burgess has 7. So, I had 102, but I maybe have even more. I maybe missed a few. And if you think that tomorrow I'll be adding the Texan H501X, that is crazy. Rufus, well over 30. Carl Icon says too many, yet not enough. And that's pretty much, B1 SBM. Alex says all people are crazy. Tarek, 7 plus RF space SDR. Jim Gordon, nice to have you on board from Dundee, Scotland. Have you noticed tonight the voice of Vietnam in English 9755 at 19 UT, replacing 97 and 30, which badly mixed with CRI on the same frequency. So they made a frequency change for that. Cool. At least now you're going to be able to listen to them. Sikaris, nice to have you here. 8 seems common. Aerial imaging, 24, soon to be 25. Franco AC says 9 radios. Joe Tyson over 15. We have let me just find my spot here. Mobile Armored Strike Command is 40. Tinit has 2. And Matt says if I count HD anti-talkies, 7. Alex says normal is just the average amount of crazy. Oh God. Aerial imaging, probably 3 or 4 more. Tristan, 5 radios, soon to be 6 when I get the SDR. Pretty cool. David Dufault, 7 shortwave, double that if you count other bands' radios. Yeah, every type of radio is included in there. Jason, VE9JMC. How many radios do I have? I have my SDR Players P1A and a Kenwood TM V71, as well as a couple of Vertex VHF radios, a few Motorola VHF and UHF handhelds. Cool. Keegan says, I use at least 4 radios within a week. I use several also. In general, I will use several different types of radios in a week too. Julian Taylor, nice to have you on board. He says, my wife says too many. That is always the answer there. G4VHJ, nice to have you on board, Julian. Neil Rigby says 8. Dan, nice to have you on board, comrade. From the Democratic Republic of Shortwave. Dan in Ohio and 8WJZ. Franco AC, greetings from the UK. Any thoughts on the U-loop for shortwave listening? Just trying one out. Not as lively as the sloper wire, but much less noise. That's the signature of a loop. Magnetic loops are great for noise reduction because they do remove some types of noise. So often it's less noisy than a wire antenna or like a sloper like you have. But in quiet conditions, your sloper probably beats the U-loop, that's for sure. I seem to have a lot of people that are happy with the U-loop. And the U-loop, if you compare the U-loop with the MLA30, the only difference is mostly the U-loop is a passive loop, and the MLA30 is an active loop, so it amplifies the signals. But most people that I've seen that have one seem to be happy with it. Shortwave listener, 6. Aerial imaging, I have 50-ish radios. Chris66 has 16. Mad Radio DX UK, almost 20, including SDRs and desktop receivers. A couple don't work. Arojo, nice to have you on board from, I would guess, Brazil. J. Araojo. What else do we have? M1MBZ says, I've used the U-loop with the Texan PL660 and XH Data D808. It gives a good signal-to-noise ratio, make a huge difference in noisy urban environments. So, kind of nice. What the hell out there? What are they doing outside? David in Barcelona, about 15, give or take. Don't have them all with me now. Devices that are radios or could be considered as such. Sony CFS W350L boombox or ITT i-Fi 8065 tuner. So, yeah, we are radio guys. Absolutely, Michael Thompson. Carl Icon, don't forget, your car has a radio. Yep, car radio, absolutely. But let's stick with it to mostly a radio that you tune around to listen to signals. Standard, because if we start counting our phones and devices, because yes, they all have radios for sure. Glenn, 5 shortwave, 1 VHF UHF scanner. Cool. Yeah. Sheldon mentioned he had 2 stereo tuners, and I thought, oh well, I got those too. I got 2 of them also. Add 2 more, 104 now. Tarek says, I recall the Appy station list from Radio Netherlands used to have pen pals from all over. Cool. Log 2112. Nice to have you here. Sheldon Harvey, news item. Israel strike in Gaza destroys building, housing, international media. So what's the news here? Let's check it out. An Israeli airstrike destroyed a high-rise building in Gaza City that housed offices of the Associated Press and other media outlets on Saturday, the latest step by the military to silence reporting from the territory amid its battle with the militant group Hamas. The strike came nearly an hour after the military ordered people to evacuate the building, which also housed Al Jazeera, other offices, and residential apartments. The strike brought the entire 12-story building down, collapsing with a gigantic cloud of dust. There was no immediate explanation for why it was attacked. The strike came hours after another Israeli air raid on a densely populated refugee camp in Gaza City killed at least 10 Palestinians from an extended family, mostly children, in the deadliest strike. So, okay. That means that some people don't want news to get out, and that's why, we always say shortwave, it's so important to keep that up, because sometimes when there's conflicts and all sorts of problems, we have a way to still communicate. But it always is sad to see when attacks kind of try to bring down news services and media. So Gary says, I have 5 radios. I choose the more premium portables up to about 200, but not beyond that price point. All have different capabilities, but I like the diversity they provide. Cool. Eric Cottrell, bonjour, hi again. Very nice day here in Boston. It's went up to Vintage Electronics Flea Market. Here we're in a very nice day too. I wonder if you make me want to check out that tomorrow. I would guess the flea market is open here. I mean, a lot of stuff is closed, but I don't think flea markets are closed. They might have, like social distancing and the limited number of people inside, but that could be a fun little Sunday walk. It's not very far from here. It's maybe 20 minutes walk, and it's fun to check out all the crap there. PLF Radio has 19 radios. Aerial Imaging says, I recently became a disciple of the Supreme Master. I'll take solace in knowing that I'll be going to Neptune soon. You guys might want to consider getting with the program. I like to go on 9330 because I want to have that. I want to actually join that expedition that they're going to do to go and find the edge of the world. I really would like to go to that expedition and see the edge of the world. That seems quite interesting. Might as well bring a few radios. Randall Klontz says 14. Kamazdi 1976. Nice to have you on board from West Michigan. Looks like the Super Bowl channel is quite active today. Really? Let's check it out here. Have the discount. Oh, I have to bring up the power there. Oh, let's try it out on the SDR. The SDR 27025. Anything in activity there? Seems pretty quiet here. Pretty quiet. So I guess your area maybe, but not much here. Tarek says once a pen pal from Malawi said he is a spoon collector. I can never figure that out. Well, there are all sorts of spoons, I guess. That's a spoon from Canada, and that's a spoon from Denmark. You ask people to send forks and spoons and knives from their country, and it's like, okay, we're eating Chinese today. Let's bring out the Chinese silverware. Richard says they had a pen pal in the Philippines in the 70s for a while, and her and I exchanged photos. Cool. There's a lot of, I'm sure there are people from around the world that actually met and when you go visit a country and everything, it's kind of cool. David Butcher through email says, I have 14 here in Northwest Georgia. Nice to have you here, David. We have Elizabeth signing in and saying hello, and she says that counting her kitchen tabletop receiver, she has 2 radios. So, modest, but, one of them is a pretty good one. You can almost say that a Kenwood R5000 is worth multiple radios. So welcome aboard, Elizabeth. Nice to have you here checking in through the email. She is in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Matt says, sign of improved propagation, playing back my recording of Radio New Zealand and their bit on 11725 at 07 UTC actually has some copyable audio. First time this spring. Cool. The Device 9, yeah, you had to pay, yeah. So nobody wanted to pay extra, so everybody was in the phone book. This, that was kind of a way of, doing things. Today, if they would release a phone book with all our cell phone numbers, I bet you that there would be groups out there that would say, no, this is not going out. We don't want that. So it's crazy. Eric Cottrell says, I have lots of radios. Yes, you do. I don't remember the number you gave out. It was like, 50-ish more? Something like that, 60-ish. There's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff. PM1 SBM, Alex, I've been between 15 and 20 at the moment. 615 got down, says, don't forget the AM, FM radios in your car. Yep, you can add that. That's radio. Catalan 10 radios. Tom the Xer, 4 radios, 2 SDRs, 2 portables, and about 4 old-timey radios from the 30s, 40s. So that's 8 radios. Mark Drager, I can't find all of them, but over 100. Wow, that's good. Old-timey radio station, nice to have you here. PLF radio, you said you have 102 radios. Does this include the SDRs? Yep. I've included the RTL SDR dongle, the AirSpy HF Plus, the RSPDX that I'm using there. Jim Gordon, I reckon I have 21 radios with shortwave. Matt says, oh, I forgot my 2 old-time 1930s radios, both AM shortwave, but shortwave doesn't work on either one. So that's 8. So Jim Gordon says 21. Matt says, or 9, including the Andy Talkie. Parrot Nolan, only 7 radios, feeling inadequate. This one is my trusty Yaesu FRG7, acquired only 2 years ago, but was my dream receiver when I was a teen, but couldn't afford one then. Yeah, that was the part, when I was a teen, it was the same thing. I mean, I didn't have any money, so I couldn't afford any radios, really. And radios per the amount of money people were making back then actually cost a lot more money. If you wanted to have something with it, when I got the DX100, the first thing that I drooled over, I didn't care which one it was. The first thing I was drooling over is a radio that has a frequency readout. Because, wow, that was a step up. You had an analog radio where you have no idea where you're tuning, and the DX100 was one of the worst on that side. So it's like, yeah, I'm listening to you somewhere around 9,500 kilohertz. I remember listening to stations, making reception reports, and they're not mentioning the frequency in the broadcast. Meant that I would send a reception report and I would say, well, I'm using this radio and I think you were somewhere around 9500 kilohertz, but I'm not sure exactly what frequency because I can't, the display is not precise enough. And most of the time it was to be okay. They knew they were broadcasting in the 31 meter band. So it was like, yeah, okay, at that time, yeah, and that's a program. He heard us. It's just that he's not sure the frequency. And so, that was a big problem. And man, when I finally got my DX302 where there's a frequency readout, oh boy, that was sweet. Finally, I know what frequency I'm tuned to. Dang, that was good. That was the first big step up. And that was the main radio for a long time. I mean, I had my DX100 at 1982, in August of 82. I guess I had the 302 in the winter of 84-ish. Winter of 84. Because it came from a flea market. And that was my main radio from 84 all the way up to 1990 when I had my Kenwood R5000. First high-end big gun receiver. That was, and it was a step up. I mean, the DX300 and the DX302 had a major flaw. What the flaw was is that, if you were on a frequency range where it's quiet and there's only a few weak stations, it worked great. It was sensitive. But if you were in a frequency range where there are very powerful signals, that the powerful signals of the shortwave broadcasters would kind of create a background hash that would wash out all the weak stations. And I remember everybody reporting, and I still remember that in the 80s, everybody was reporting Radio New Zealand back then on 6100. And back in the 80s, Radio New Zealand did not have 100 kilowatts like today. They were a low-powered station. They were 7.5 kilowatts, if I remember well. So it was a tough one, but a lot of people were still reporting it in North America. And I was frustrated because every day I would try, I would not hear anything. And one morning, I heard it. And I heard it for like 15 minutes. And it actually was gone after 15 minutes because a station had signed on the 49 meter band and was super powerful. And that's the first time I had noticed that that radio had that flaw, that basically it would just increase and do kind of a white noise across the band when a strong, powerful shortwave broadcast was near where I was listening to. And that was the first time, and I remember being a little frustrated because Radio New Zealand went from easy to copy and understandable to somewhere in the noise there's something now. And that's where I understood that receiver had that major flaw, and made me realize maybe that's why it had a pre-selector in it, because they compensated that flaw by having a pre-selector that actually tunes the radio to the specific band you're listening to. And of course, when I got the Kenwood R5000, I was in heaven. That was the great radio, and that was the main radio I used. Kenwood R5000. I used that for to 2010-ish when I got the 8500. RJ88 Dakota says 5, including the Sony ICF 77 shortwave. That doesn't work. TIYX, I only have a PL380. It does it for me right now. And that's fine also. I mean, you don't have to be crazy like us and have a million radios. As long as you have one, you love it and it works. That's the important stuff. Rick Ray, nice to have you here from Turkey. Blind Picker is guessing about 26 radios. Danny Ulison, nice to have you here from Melbourne, Australia. Good afternoon to all you Northern Hemisphere people up there. Love the show, and I have at least 60 plus radios. Cool. Danny Yulson, welcome aboard from the other side of the world. JD Dakota says, and soon a Texan PL368 Countycom GP7. Richard, is a wire antenna over 100 feet too long? In general, what we say in putting up a wire antenna, most of the time what we'll say is put it as long as you have the possibility to put it, and don't worry about it. You'll know if it's too long in a way if your radio's overload. If you see them overloading, then okay, maybe it is. But if they don't, it's fine. It's fine. Rufus says, back when a normal person could afford shipping on eBay, I collected a fair collection of shortwave tube receivers. So pretty cool. Shipping is crazy now. Yeah, shipping is crazy, and the prices also. There was a time when, like 10 years ago, you could easily get used radio gear for decent prices on eBay. And then suddenly everybody started going crazy with the prices. Scott KC2C80 says, if we include my radio controlled plane stuff, I'll need more fingers and toes. Leo, nice to have you here from Arizona. Randy, Riverside, California, nice to have you here. Our JDA Dakota, HD Radio in the Kitchen makes it 7. Alan Heldenman Show says 10. Pretty cool. Batty Boo, nice to have you here from the Czech Republic. 10 radios plus 3 on the way, thanks to you. Never ending story. Man, there must be a lot of people out there and a lot of wives saying, you got to stop listening to that Jill guy in Canada because you're buying radios all the time. William Helms, nice to have you on board from Florida. Todd J. Riddle, nice to have you on board. Has anybody here tried or worked with a dipole called a Slink 10? It's for a QRP rig. Robert Cross says, am I allowed to share my new shortwave receiver when I get it to your Facebook group? Yes, absolutely, Robert. Absolutely. What else do we have? I like the lighting. I can change all the colors. It's kind of nice. I like it. More on the way. Oh yeah, your computer. The computer. I'm on Wi-Fi right now doing the live show. So my computer is a transceiver. Absolutely, it's receiving the stuff, reading the chat room, sending all the packets of data through the router to for the live stream. Amazing when you think about it. What we have today. Yeah, shortwave crosses border. Absolutely. James Johnson Radio, the original social media. Yes. The Export, nice to have you here from Cincinnati. Christopher, nice to have you on board. Great show as always. Texan H501X is now available from Anonco. Is it officially now? Let me go and check it out. See if they started the process of purchasing the radio. So here, it still says notify me when in stock. And if I add to cart, it says product out of stock. So it's not yet, but I guess within the next few hours, because it does say that May 16th is the time for the radio. So I'll be checking that out for sure, because I'm going to purchase that as soon as it's available. So tomorrow, May 16th, going to be interesting to test that. Ricardo, nice to have you on board from Portugal. Rufus, yeah, in Ontario, it's worse than Quebec. So here we have some quite a few things open. We don't have restaurants or bars yet, but we can go shopping. You can go, flea market is probably open. It's just as there's a strict limit of how many people inside. But we can't go to restaurants. We can order out, but we can't go to restaurants or bars yet. Graham Taplin, nice to have you here. 15. Franco AC, I picked up an old Sony ICF S22 for £5 at the flea market last week. Wow, cool. So the expert says Countycom has hinted at the week of June 1st they will release their new GP7. So that is going to be something to look forward. I am supposed to have Nick at Countycom has said that they will be sending me one a GP7 for free. So that's really cool. And of course, we're gonna check it out and check out all the little details. Compare it a little bit to the Texan PL368 that I already have. See what the changes are. So this is cool. Log 2112. How's the weather in Spain this evening? For those that are asking for Spain, I guess. Here in Montreal, it's beautiful though. Beautiful week ahead too. It could actually be an interesting week to maybe try to find a way to go to Perry Island this week. I'm going to check out if maybe I could find some time to go there. Eric Cottrell, does the flea market have a website? They should have information on rules and if they are open. I don't know if they have a website. It's one of those. It's a real, because flea markets. One of the biggest problems with flea markets here is that a lot of them are simply stores selling counterfeit T-shirts and stuff. And everything you buy is brand new. But the one here, 15 minutes away, is actually a real junk depot. It's junk. Old junk everywhere you look. Old junk. A real flea market. Let me check here quickly if I see one. They have a website. Well, they have a they don't have any website from I see here, but there's a lot of sites talking about it. There's one here says spottedbylocals.com, Marché aux Puces Saint-Michel, Montréal, treasure hunting. So what about this? Are there pictures here? There's not enough pictures. But there are a couple one with pictures. Oh, here goes. We have a lot of pictures here. Oh, there's a lot of stuff there. Yeah, if you want to have an idea. So I don't know, but they don't have a website. It's one of those flea markets that are like just very, it's like I said, it's old junk. Most of it is old junk. That's for sure. Kimberly, K6YYL, nice to have you here from California. There is one guy there that has sells old radios, but most of the old radios are out of price. You look at the radios, like, yeah, $300. Seriously, I'm not going to pay $300 for that old thing. All right, Cottrell says actually there are small souvenir spoons from different places. So I mean, you can make out a souvenir and you can have a collection of anything basically. There's no limit to what you the amount of whatever you can collect basically. Trustin, I was traveling late at night. I turned on the car radio on the AM band. Wow, the dial was packed with stations. Is there any particular reason why the car radio is such a great AM DX radio? Actually, one of the reasons, first of all, a lot of car radios are surprisingly good. Every time I rented a car, I ended up tuning the radio and seeing a lot of good radios out there. And one of the reasons I think it's particularly good in the car is maybe because you have low noise in the radio. So being on the road, far from homes, often makes it quieter for the AM band to be listening to. And of course, it's late night also at the same time. Remember that the medium wave band at night is crowded with stations everywhere because of the way that propagation works. But I often notice that car radios are often surprisingly good for listening to AM and FM. Eric Cottrell, it is like, oh yes, I remember now that you said that earlier, the TV series North of 60. That's for the number of radios. Comac Z76, 2 radios, RSP1A and PL330. Hey, 2 great radios. Why have more? Why have more? What else do we have? Jim Gordon, latest edition of the UK Magazine Radio User, has a review of the PL330 amongst other interesting items. It's professionally produced and well worth reading. I need to check that out. Radio User. Robert Cross, 7 radios so far. The export is it just me, or is Todderbert the Bob Ross of radio? I say that respectfully. Well, he's having a nice run on his YouTube channel. I was looking at stuff the other day on his channel. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. He found his, when I say when somebody wants to make videos about something, and including radios and stuff like that. I always say I'm not in a competition with anybody. I don't care. It's like, you want to do a YouTube channel that deals with radio, go for it. It's even more interesting if you have more choice out there, not just me. And he's found a way to really do his own thing, which is really nice. The guy is really, really fun to watch, and it's really, really. He's found his way. He's found the way to do it in his own style, and that's really cool. It's like I do it in my own style. It's then after that you get to, it's like 2 hands on the radio that left because I had a hard time with all of it. And I think after you do a channel, what mostly you gotta understand is that you got to deal with what comes with having a YouTube channel, which is trolling, lots of bad comments of all sorts, hurtful comments, and so on. You got to deal with that. It's always going to be there. And it's, if you can deal with that and you just continue doing your stuff, ignoring all the idiots out there, it's cool. It's cool. Robert Cross has radios from the 1958, the 60s, and the 70s. Mickey Delmage, nice to have you on board. 23 radios, but I have not counted the stereo components. Sheldon did. And that adds 2 radios for me. Keegan's got a DX402 from the early 2000s. Our JDA Dakota, the very first radio I ever had with a digital readout was a Panasonic RF2200. That was a great. Mark Fisher, nice to have you here from Southern Illinois. DX Sport has 11 radios. DK5ONV, nice to have you on board. Shortwave, Germany, waving a hand and wishing a happy Saturday evening. Cool, nice to have you on board, my friend. DRAF, nice to have you here. Keegan, first radio with a digital readout is the Radio Shack DX402. Bernie Dodge, I used to make a graph plotting the band spread versus dial versus some known frequency so I could interpolate to estimate where I was in the spectrum. Finally, a use for algebra. I would, often what I would do is I would, in some radios that I owned that were awfully off frequency, I would put little stickers in which I would draw a small line and write the frequency on top. One of them, the Super Radio 3 by General Electrics, which is badly out of whack on the display of what frequency it is listening to. What I did is I tuned known frequencies one night, and I was like, okay, this is 600. Here's 660 kilohertz. Here's 700 kilohertz, and so on. Put little stickers on top. I think some of them are still there, stuck on the radio with the frequency, because that thing was completely off. I mean, I wish I would have possessed a GE Super Radio, but the first or second one, which apparently were really, really good. Because personally, the third one I find, for the price, because it was the GE Super Radios are more expensive. They're higher end receivers. I find that for the price paid, the GE Super Radio 3 is kind of flimsy, doesn't feel quality, and man, the frequency display is out of whack. I find that sad because, I was all hyped up. I got a GE Super Radio. And you get home, and it's like, well, okay, yeah, it's a good radio. It receives well. The big speaker makes it, gives it real nice sound. But apart from that, it's like nothing exceptional. It's not better than anything else I owned. I wish I would have had one of those the original ones. Jim Gordon says, my first radio with digital readout was a CNG and ATS 803. I would think that this was the first digital readout radio as well for many of my generation in the mid-'80s. It was a very, very popular receiver, also known by many other names. It was known as there was a Radio Shack version, a realistic version. There was I'm trying to remember the brand names, but it was available under so many names. Mandrio DX says, I also wanted a digital display radio back in my teens, and they were very expensive compared to the analog ones. These days, we are spoiled for choice with cheap ones from China, like the Texan PL330. Absolutely. Imagine if we had started out with something like that, at a price point that would be the price point we have today in the 80s. Wow, pretty crazy. Dini Descartes says he's passionate with astronomy, and he actually loves it a lot. Loves watching and exploring the stars, and that's actually one of the reasons why he actually started listening to shortwave. I still am, but in my teenage years, I was a big fan of astronomy. I had a 6-inch telescope, a 6-inch reflector telescope, and did a lot of astronomy back then. DK50NV, hello there. JDA Dakota RF2200 had a mechanical band spread. It had 125 and 500 hertz markers on it. Huh. Tom DX, her first receiver with a digital readout, the Yaesu FRG 7700. Really nice radio. Matt says, excellent. I think you're in range of most of the U.S. Northeast and, of course, Ontario and Quebec, so that's a good place for signals. But if you're getting Chicago, you probably have a good amplifier circuit. Canish quotes, are Kato radios good? Read bad reviews on Amazon. Depends which one you choose. If you could find a Kato KA1103, it is also known as the Dijon DE1103. That's a good one. That's a really good one. But there's a lot of these that you have to be careful which one you choose. They're not all good. The Trustin says, I love the Texan PL380. ATM scan is pretty sporty. DRAF recount. I have 50 radios and one on the way. So 51 soon. Cool. Joe says, eBay fees are very high. What else do we have? Matt has shared a website for the patterns of broadcast patterns of the medium wave stations in the US and Canada. That's cool. M3 LUS. Those were the days when I could only dream about getting a Cobra 148 GTL DX. Now I have 3 HF radios. My best being the 7300 here in the UK. You know what? That reminds me of a little moment I had. I think it was last. I went outside for about an hour and a half before supper, and before cooking my food, and I had the Texan PL990X. I had the St. Gian ATS 909X2. I had another one. I just don't remember which one I took out with it. Maybe one of the, like the Texan PL368 or something. And I was having a little drink and looking at the beautiful evening, out there outside. And it kind of came up to me and said, man, look at how cool it is. Thinking that, when I was a teenager, I couldn't afford radios, and I had to, it was difficult to, to find anything decently priced that you could own. And I was looking at the radios, and I was like, look at how cool. How did you, I part of me said to myself, wow, did you ever think that later in your life you would have dozens and dozens of radios, a lot of them really good ones, and that you even would be testing radios and talking about them? It made me kind of feel good. It was like, you kind of got a good life there. J-Man Ranger, nice to have you here from Alabama. Yes, PA1SBM, Alex. Buying radios is good. Log 2112, GM DSS active on 8413.53 ships and 5 coasts on DX Atlas currently. Cool. Franco, you see anyone else enjoy listening to 4875 Mystery 21? Some good tunes on there tonight. Alex says, ideal amount of radios is current amount of radios plus 1. Rufus says, Jill has never caused me to spend money. It's Paul's fault. So that's good. It's the cat's fault. Perfect. Oh, God. David, I used to think that owning only one radio of each type was enough. That's long gone, I'm afraid. Oh, man. Mark Green, do you know if you can get baby monitor frequencies on shortwave radio? Not really, because they're more in the... there's less and less low VHF ones today. So if you hear... I scanned the lower VHF frequency range the other day and did not hear anyone of any of the BB monitors that I could hear even just a year ago on 49 megahertz. I'm sure there's still some. If you go around a neighborhood with a portable scanner, I'm sure there's still some lingering out there. But most of the baby monitors today are spread spectrum in 2.4 gigahertz. So they're impossible to monitor. And I don't think you will hear any of that on shortwave radio frequencies. most of them started at 49 megahertz, which is much higher than the basic shortwave radio will go. Laura Robinson, nice to have you on board. KO4DFJ. Leo says, give this man the thumbs up. It helps. Chastang, nice to have you on board. Checking in from Louisville, Kentucky. Blackberry Cobbler was finished off last night while tuning around the dials. Eric Cottrell says, is the flea market Marché aux Puces Métropolitain? No. I'm going to give you the name here and you'll find it. It's Marché aux Puces Saint-Michel. I put the name there so you can copy and paste. Search Marché aux Puces Saint-Michel or Flea Market Saint-Michel. And if you see pictures of old crap, rundown, a rundown place with full of crap of old stuff. I mean, it's not just crap. There's some really cool old stuff there. That's what you want. Marché aux Puces Métropolitain is not a place I'd like to go because that's more like, it's like going at a shopping mall, except that everything you see is copies of, so you look at a pair of shoes, they're supposed to be, Nikes, and they're actually copies of Nikes. And that's why they cost a third of the price. Or, you'll have some polo shirts, but actually they're, fake polo shirts and stuff like that. That's Marché aux Puces Métropolitain. You're going to find stuff like that and brand new crap and electronic crap in boxes and stuff. The one that I have, that one that I just posted the name, that's 15-minute walk from here, 15, 20 minutes walk from here. And it is the true flea market that you want to go to, the old junk that nobody can sell and that everybody just, found somewhere. It's there. There's a lot of old radios. Almost every seller has at least 3 or 4 old receivers, old radios. And there's so much stuff there. It's worth it to go there because it's worth it to see the place and see all the old stuff. So, William Helms, 3, a Radio Shack DX375, Air Castle 136 F1, and a Palmtrex 120 00300. Cool. And Art Dodd, nice to have you here. Art, K2ADC, did you have any QSOs with the CB? Yeah, I did. I actually did. I even had a nice chat with somebody 2 days ago. I was checking out, and I always do the same thing. That's been my CB signature forever. When I wanted to talk with someone, I would just go on a channel, and I would just say, hey, is there anyone listening? I'm located around this area and trying out some, equipment and stuff and antennas. If anybody's out there and hearing me, you can say hi. And it almost always works. It's funny because there's not a lot of activity, but there seems to be a lot of people listening. Because almost every time I do that, not right away. I have to I'll stay on the channel and I'll call maybe 20 times in a space of maybe an hour and a half. And I'd say that at least 50% of the time, somebody answers back. So there's definitely people there. So, and it's funny because most of the times it's a very short contact, But a couple of days ago, it was interesting. It was the guy was chatty. He was in his car, and we chatted away a little bit. I talked about the fact that I installed the antenna and stuff, and actually we talked about all sorts of things. And he came to the conversation of a YouTube channel for CB stuff, and I told him I had a shortwave channel on. So maybe one day we'll see him, get here. He took down the name. He says, "Oh, I'm going to check that out." And it was fun. We chatted for maybe an hour, and I was like, "Wow, this is cool." A little chat, and the guy was a fair distance from me. Actually, he was. I could understand what he was saying, but because of the noise floor, which is the number one problem here, he was, he was just okay. It would have been a little weaker, and I could not understand. But he was in his car, and where he was, I guess the noise was very low. So he said, your signal's really good. And so, I like doing that from time to time. I'll just sit down, and it's like a calling CQ on CB. It's like I'll just choose a channel and say, hey, I'm located at this place. I'm testing on my new CB antenna and just want to know if anybody's out there. John McClure, nice to have you on board. Let me go down a little faster. Franco AC says, talking how many radios you own. Anyone else can stop buying them. Kevin, M0MCL, nice to have you here from the UK. Joe says, GE Super Radio 3 was just 59. Yeah, but when it actually came out the first time, because at the end they would sell it off real. They wanted to get rid of it. When I got the GE Super Radio 3, because for a long time here it was something like $129. And it was at Canadian Tires I purchased mine. I go to Canadian Tires and I see the box, and it was $79, and they had taped on the box, a Grundig Mini 300 PE or something like that, one of those little portables with the frequency display with shortwave on it. So every box had that taped on it. It was like, for $79, you get the GE Super Radio 3, and you get that little shortwave radio with it. So I thought, wow, $79 for two radios. One is shortwave. Okay, cool. I'm taking that home. Oh, you can count, William Helms, you can count your stereos and anything that is a radio. Joe Tyson, CC Radio EP is the GESR3. The SR3, kind of follow-up, basically. But it seems to be a pretty good radio. Paul Williams, nice to have you here. RJ88 Dakota even had the Sony ICF 2001. This radio was the first of a kind. That is still today an amazing radio. Yeah, here DK5 ONV. You maybe don't see it well. Let me just go back. But here in the back, right there, is a Grundig from 1969. It's a Grundig satellite transistor 6001, also known as the Grundig Satellite 210. It's a amazing equipment, an amazing radio for the time. It's truly high-tech Grundig German technology. And it was built in 1969. It works perfectly. Actually, I was looking at it when I was starting to do the stuff for the live show. And my first thought was, you haven't turned it on in quite a few weeks now. Maybe you should take it out of that hole and use it as your main radio tonight to listen to shortwave. That could be fun. So maybe I'll be doing that tonight. Chaz Tank, my first digital readout radio was a Pioneer AM/FM cassette I bought in 1975. Actually, I bought for my 1975 Cutlass Supreme. So, well. Scott, KC2C80, car radios sound better also because the car's body acts like a Faraday cage. Aerial Imaging, will you consider ordering a Belka DX with your next radio purchase? I'm really interested to see your input. I'm pretty sure that, so I'm going to get the Texan H501X tomorrow. And I think I'll wait a few weeks, try to get my wallet back up with money in it. And I'll be possibly be getting a Belka DX. We'll try that out. I'm kind of curious, and I know a lot of you want me to test it out and give my opinion on it too. So I'm going to check that out. RJ88 Dakota, is there anything on the low VHF TV band at all? I keep thinking that these frequencies have finally been abandoned. You know what? There's a lot of stuff, but maybe not necessarily local to you. And if you tune 30 to 50 megahertz, when the 10 meter band is open, scan 30 to 50 all the time. Because if sporadic E happens, or if the 10 meter band, or even better, if the 6 meter band is open, you will actually be surprised at skip, all sorts of stuff coming in by skip. From what I've realized is that there are still a lot of law enforcement in the United States still using old equipment with the 30 some megahertz, 40 megahertz range. And when skip happens, you hear that from far away. Last time I scanned 30 to 50 was quite a while back. I should do another scan 30 to 50 to check out, especially now that I've got antennas that are very long that are very good for that range. Skip, when there's skip, when 6 meters open, I almost always hear some stuff. And with the English accent, I know that it's US. I've heard almost every time skip this, like 6 meters is open, you hear stuff. But you might not necessarily have stuff locally. And that's an interesting thing that I'm going to do this week. I'm going to try to scan 30 to 50 a few days, see what I get locally, if I get stuff, still get some stuff. Of course, the old cordless phones doesn't work anymore. There's no more of those around. Old, even the baby monitors, it wasn't far, that far in time. Maybe a year ago, I was hearing at least one baby monitor on 49 megahertz. So some of them are still working. My fun of 30 to 50 megahertz was listening to where I lived before here. At the corner of the street was a McDonald's. And sometimes I would just punch in the McDonald's frequency I would hear all the orders coming in through the drive-through. And I remember a couple of times, and the most heavy times of McDonald's and for the supper, for dinner, I would a few times I did that. I jotted down the amounts, because they would always say, okay, that's going to be 25 30, and or 1960 or whatever. I would add all the amounts that you would say in an hour. And I still remember the first time I did it, it was like, I can't believe the amount of money that gets in through the drive-through in just 1 hour at McDonald's. Is completely crazy. Log 2112 from Nassau Bay, Texas. I'm getting European ACARs on 131.725. Waiting to see if I decode. Shelly, nice to have you here. Made my BlackBerry cobbler too. People are talking about food. And 6 RLS, not much choice for HD radio portables. Too bad. Some medium wave stations going all digital, HD compatible. So maybe that will change. Yeah, well, I got the HDR14 here, and I really like it. It's a small portable. It's a small portable from St. Gian, and I really like it. And it's available. It's still available on eBay. Not eBay, sorry, Amazon. St. Gian HDR14. It's a very nice little portable. Honestly, I like it a lot. Works great. And here I use it almost exclusively to listen to the NPR station that's across the border in Burlington, Vermont, on 107.9. And what's nice is I also get the BBC stream 24 hours through the HD channel 3, which is really nice. So check St. Gian. They have quite a few HD portables, and most seem to be pretty good. But that said, if you go in any store, yeah, HD radios are tough to find. Yeah, I wonder if eventually, where did I hear something about that? Or read, did I read it, or I heard something about the move to the lower frequency range below the FM band to expand it? That would be a good move, honestly, to expand the FM band. Why not do like Japan? Start at 64 and go up to 88. You could add so many stations on the market. That would be nice. But that said, that would kill AM radio even more, because so many AM stations would say, hey, I want to go to FM now. There's more space in my city. I'm going to FM. I'm sure. Todd says, I know WNAX is a bit lower power than KBHB, and that one is weaker than a Rapid, and it's 80 miles away roughly. William Helms, my first preoccupation with medium wave DX was from my dad's trading for a car radio from a 67 Volkswagen. And I'd love one from the 55 Thunderbird. Pretty cool. These cars, I find that the old cars had more personality than today's cars, which I find so bland and have no soul. M0M LMK, looking forward to getting a PL330 delivered to my doorstep to replace my old abused Ethon G3. You're going to be happy. Once you get past the shock of how small it is, you're going to be very happy. It's a very good radio. Jim in Rhode Island, nice to have you here. What else do we have? The expert listening to the show through his car radio via the iPhone. So, Dimitri, nice to have you here. WMQM AM 1300 at 3 a.m. Eastern. 6115 kilohertz at 6 p.m. and 1490 a.m. at 9 p.m. Eastern every Saturday for North America. Alan Endelman show. What do you use your CB antenna as your CB antenna? Oh, it's a discount, a Tram, TRAM 1411. That has the extra whip at the top for low frequencies. It's actually made for 11 meters in CB, and it has two adjustable radios that you just add. You just play with and to get your SDR down. And once it's like right now, I'm not touching it anymore. It seems to be pretty good, but I'm using that as a CB antenna. And at the same time, it gives me a really nice VHF, UHF antenna. Okay. Let's try to go down a little more. Lloyd Merrill, nice to have you on board from Cumberland, Rhode Island, W1 LBM. Pretty cool to have you on board, my friend. Estrella Garcia, nice to have you on board. DRAF, any radio pushes me to about 62 or 63 radios. I need help. You're not going to get help from me, because I'm probably going to say, hey, you got to buy that radio now. Rick, nice to have you here from Milwaukee. DK5ONV had the satellite 650 and 3400 of Grundig. Then the Hammerland, Drake, and JRC NRD. Cool. Great radios. Sean Allen, is the Texan PL 990X still your top portable radio? Yep. Pretty much. It's the one I immediately go to every time I am looking for a portable radio. It's like automatic. I want that. I will say that one of the reasons why also it's the one I want, it's because, it's hard to explain because people that have not experienced what high-end radio receiver is when you tune single sideband don't quite grasp what I'm saying when I say tuning the PL990X on single sideband is like tuning iHand. It's like tuning my ICOM receiver here. Why? Because there's no more fine tuning. You're actually just tuning the radio and finding the perfect frequency for the pitch in the upper lower sideband, which is a different thing from I hear something, I'm going to play with the BFO to try to, have the perfect voice, the perfect tone of the voice in the single sideband transmission. And I think that is mostly what appeals to me really the most, is having that capability of easily tuning any signal in sideband, knowing I'm exactly on the frequency thanks to the calibration, the feature. It adds to the receiver. It gives it honestly, it really gives it a higher end portable feel. A feel that I don't get on the Sangean ATS 909X2. Because even though it tunes, more fine tuning and everything, it's off frequency and it doesn't have calibration and it doesn't show me, it shows me 1 digit after the kilohertz. So I see the frequency to 100 hertz, where I see it to a 10 hertz on the Texan. Makes it more precise. And that feel, I don't get it on the Sangean ATS 909X2. It's sad because the 909X2, it's beautiful. If you get one, it works well. But it's far from being the best shortwave radio out there. And I still think the Texan PL 990X beats the Sangean by a long shot, for sure. William Helms, 5 of my 6 my Walkman have a radio. Oh God, I forgot. I do have a Walkman there. So then I have to add another one. So now from 102, 104 with the FM tuners on the radio tuners on the stereo tuners. Now I got to add a Walkman. That means I'm at 105. Okay. Anything else that I don't think about that should be added here? Hey, I didn't add the CB radio. Thinking about it. 106. Anything else? I'm really... Oh, there's one on the floor there that I didn't count. 107. 107. Anything else? Anything else I missed? Anything else I missed? I tell you, there must be at least... I'm sure there's at least a dozen more that I haven't seen. Got too many of them. Man. Alan Handelman Show says, my first radio was a kit in the mid-60s, a Lafayette Explorer Air shortwave radio. I built with my dad when I was around 10 or 11. Still works. First kit that I've ever had was one of those Radio Shack spring kits. Even though I did, because back then I did solder and I did some circuits. I still remember I did a small, it was in the Ahoy magazine. There was a speech synthesizer circuit using the SPO 256 chip that you could control on the Commodore computer. And I still remember I bought the chip, was available at the Radio Shack, built the circuit, and I could... you could like issue phonetics and it would actually give you a full phrase. But the first radio I had, I don't know. I remember it was like a Friday night. I had like $20 in my pocket, and I went to Radio Shack, and I remember I went there to purchase batteries, and I remember they had that crystal set, which was a small crystal set with the little springs where you just hook up the wires. I saw that and said, "Oh, look at that! Build a crystal AM crystal radio." So the batteries cost me like $7 for what I needed, and that added to rounding up roughly to $20. And I thought, okay, that looks cool. Let's bring that home. And that was my first radio kit. And I still remember I built it, put the little wires, extended the wire cable that came with it, and heard one station only. I was like, okay, how can I improve this? And the manuals that came with those were actually quite surprising in explaining stuff. So one of them was, well, you need a good ground. If you can ground yourself, and they were talking about grounding yourself on the water taps and stuff like that. And I remember looking super weird. My mom not understanding what I'm doing with my wires around the faucet, the kitchen faucet. And I remember clipping the ground wire to the kitchen faucet. And I started tuning again. And this time I had like 5 or 6 different stations. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm hearing 6 stations on this thing. And I was amazed at the fact that no batteries. It's like, how does it work? No batteries. And so that was my first kit. But then on my birthday that year, my dad came home and had a little gift box. And he said, that's for you. I think you're going to enjoy that. And it was a portable AM FM radio kit that he had found. I don't remember where. My dad would go to flea markets and stuff like that a lot for all sorts of things. And I think it's at a flea market he had found that. I don't remember the brand, but I opened the box and you had everything. You had the casing and you had all the parts, and you had to solder that thing together for it to work. And there was the instruction manual on how to build it. And that was my first real kit with soldering, where I built my first little AM FM radio, which I was so proud. And man, that thing I love to play with. I don't know what happened to it. It's somewhere in my stuff. It's like foggy. I don't really know. I don't remember what happened to it. I think it stopped working at some point. I was starting out, so my soldering wasn't very good. So, probably had some kind of soldering joint that wasn't right or whatever. If I remember well, it worked for like a few months. And one day I turned it on and it didn't work anymore. And probably I remember thinking, well, maybe I should open it up and check all the soldering joints, make sure that everything's all right. But never came to it. And I don't know what happened to it after that. Our JDA Dakota says the radio for the FM expansion is already here. All they have to do is tweak the FM a little. And most of our new shortwave radios is just a push of a button. Yeah, a lot of our radios actually go down to 64 megahertz already. Absolutely. Keegan has a Sony CFD 510 on the shelf in the side of the kitchen. DK5 ONV will post videos from the test run out in the fields. Cool. Jason, V9 JMC. A little bit of skip popping up here and there in New Brunswick on 11-meter band. Not strong, but it is there. I'm seeing a peak in my background here. Look at that. Yeah, it is here too. I was not looking at the screen because I see the screen in my computer, but look at that. Let's check out how the discount receives it with the CV. Turn on this. Turn on this. So 6. Yeah, look at that. I don't know if you guys hear that, but let's check out 38 lower. Yep. So that's 38 lower sideband, the 27385 lower sideband on the Uniden Bearcat 980 SSB CB rig here. So I was hearing some stuff. So yeah, there's some skip happening now on the 11 meter band. Pretty cool. Sean Allen, nice to have you here. Scott says people that tell you the ants put up in let's see weather sound better are liars. Okay, I don't get it, but yeah. What else do we have? Matt says, yeah, portables do not hold SSB tuning until now. And Batrina, nice to have you on board from near the French border. Cool. Take care, DK50NV. Nice to have you on board. Hope you're going to come back. Alembic 65, nice to have you here. Chemistry 76 says sometimes if you have an old MP3 player, they have built-in radios. Yes, some of them do, absolutely. Mobile Armored Strike Command. That is why I keep a list of radio broken down in categories: analogs, digital, scanners, transceivers, weather radios, and citizens bands. RJ8 Dakota says, still enjoy my D808. Small enough for me to carry it anywhere. Not perfect, but SSB is good. If I had too much money, I would probably have the 990X. Just can't justify it because I cannot afford it. And, it's not just a question of affording it also, RJ8 Dakota. Because sincerely, if you guys have noticed, I talk about it. I like it. I love it. I love its higher ends SSB tuning capability. I ain't pushing it. I'm not saying that's the killer radio you got to get. Because I also look at, it's got that. It's nice. But it is more than 2 times the price of a D808. You're not going to get on any of these radios like the D808. Honestly, you own a Degen D1103, a Texan PL 600, 660, 680. You own a Texan PL 330. You own a the XH Data D808. Let me try to find out a range. A C Crane, CC Skywave SSB, or one of those Grundig Ethon Traveler radios, or any one of these radios with single sideband. They all work very well. They receive well. They're sensitive. They do a good job at what they have to do as a job. Honestly, this is where I draw a line where, those are good. They receive the same thing. I always say the same phrase when somebody asks me, should I move on to that? It's purely for I would, because I like the tuning of SSB and the better sound and all. But that said, Yes, there's nothing you're going to receive on the 990X that you won't hear on one of these that I just mentioned. Nothing. Nothing. Honestly, nothing. Same goes for the St. Jean ATS 909X2. That thing is not getting signals you won't get on the radios I just mentioned, which are much less expensive. And it comes down to money you have, price you're ready to pay for a radio. What are you expecting exactly? And I'd rather have lower priced receivers because let's face it, honestly, today's $100, the best $100 receivers today, they're not cheap crap. They're actually very decent radios. They perform and even outperform a lot of the receivers of the 1980s that had frequency readouts. They outperform because look at how stable radios are today. Anybody like me who grew up with radio for a long time, how many radios did you own that the SSB is drifting slowly and you have to readjust because it's going higher in pitch, higher in pitch, higher in pitch? Yeah, because you got to readjust it to have the perfect voice. We lived through all of that with the way the technology was. Hey, you got today a Texan PL 330 that for 60, 70 bucks has super precise frequency readout, single sideband, ETM scan, is very sensitive, has long wave, medium wave, shortwave, FM, has extremely stable tuning. It's not drifting. Just look at what we got for the price today. I'm amazed. And you know what? I am happy with that. I am happy with that because I'm tired of all the, yes, there are big gun radios that those extras that come with it make it a little something more, But honestly, with the state of the hobby today being a more difficult hobby, because let's face it, in 1982 when I started, the hobby wasn't difficult. Hey, I had a crappy radio. The DX100 is a crappy shortwave radio in reality. I know today. I didn't know at all then. I thought it was an amazing device. But there's so much to listen to that, hey, it's getting the world. Look at that. Today, I would not be happy with a DX100. And what I like about today, lower priced receiver is very simple, is a lot of people are hesitant in spending money to get a radio like that and are not sure. Well, it's never been cheaper to get into shortwave listening. I mean, come on. It's never been so cheap. And that is one hope that I have, that it might help maintain a certain level of listeners and of people listening in. Because if radios would have followed the inflation curve to have a good radio, I mean, a Texan PL 330 receiver type would be, $700, $800 today. Thank God the electronics, thank God the fact that, China manufacturing, you might bash China as a wall you want. I'm sorry, but you got to also accept the other side of the China stuff, is that look at a company like Texan and look at how we're getting some great stuff at a price that now we can afford easily. Even people that had a hard time dishing out money for a decent radio in the 70s or 80s now can afford to dish out the money for a decent radio in 2021. And that I will say is what is the best thing that can happen to our hobby, because it means people might, some people out there that don't even know what shortwave is might actually be tempted in still buying one because they'll go out, they want to buy a radio, and they're like, well, you know, for the difference in price, I got an AM FM radio that has that SW thing on it or shortwave on it. I don't know what it is, but hey, let's buy that. For the price, come on. So, they aren't that, I get a lot of comments of people saying, well, I had an XH Data D808. It seems cheap and flimsy, or a Texan, it seems cheap and flimsy, or I have all of these radios, and many of them I've had for years. And I tell you guys, I'm not one of those that are easy on the radios. Okay. I'm a tough guy on the radios. Anybody that, knows me will tell you, oh, if you want a tough guy on that device, he's the tough guy. He's the guy that doesn't take care of his stuff more than that. I'm the guy that gonna listen to a radio, leave it on the kitchen table for a month, not touch it, like an inch of dust on it, almost. I'm kidding, but it's almost that. I'm not the guy that takes care of his radios. I'm the guy that uses the radios, wants the radio to work and do what it wants. I'm not going to be the one that's going to pamper the radio. It's like, oh, you beautiful little thing. I'm going to, tonight I'm going to wash you to make sure no, I'm not that kind of guy. I am more that kind of guy because now I make videos, and the HD videos show the radio's state quite easily. So sometimes I put the radio in front of the camera and like, okay, I got to clean that thing because it's horrible the way it is right now. And people are like, what the hell happened to that thing? It went to war or something. But that tells you one thing, is these radios are not as flimsy as they might look. They're actually quite tough. And they are quite good. Brad in Amarillo, Radio Shack Battery of the Month Club. Yes, we all been there. We've all been there. William Helms, I knew you missed a few. Radio Shack Pro 94, Pro 74, Pioneer DEH 64BT. There you go. I never missed a month of the Battery Club either because, I was always at Radio Shack. I think Radio Shack was like, if I had to go out for a walk for something, and the shopping mall that I have near here is where the Radio Shack was. And since I've always lived in this general area, it was easy for me to go to the shopping mall. Shopping mall had, in the 80s, the shopping mall was very different than today. Today, it's like all mainstream crappy stores. The kind of thing that it's like, it's not interesting. The shopping mall here, today, the only place that I really go to is for groceries and Canadian Tires. The rest of the shopping mall is like, I just don't care. I don't care. I don't even buy my clothes there because there's like no choice. I buy my clothes downtown at several stores that I go. And if it's not on the internet. So, and the back in the 80s, it was different. There was a hardware store, which was like a Canadian Tire, was called Pascal. There was Woolworth, which was a surprising mix of all sorts of things. And as a teenager and even as a kid, that was the place I would go to because there was that area with games and all sorts of things. And, when I had my allowance on Thursday, I would go to Woolworths or I would go to Radio Shack and I would see, okay, I got $10. What can I buy with $10 tonight? That is if I was not spending all the money on stamps for QSL cards in envelopes. But today's very different. Anyways, that shopping mall is actually going to shut down after it's been there for 50 years. I'm trying to remember how many years. Something like 58 years. They're shutting it down because they're extending the blue line of the Montreal Metro station, which is the subway here. And so because of that extension, there'll be one of the stations will be where the shopping mall is. So they're actually expropriating the shopping mall. It's kind of weird because, it's like that place that you've gone when you were young to buy stuff. It's where the Radio Shack was, where I would go and buy my radios and buy electronic stuff and gadgets of all kinds. Oh, man. Can tell you. I can tell you. Okay. Let me try to. David says, back when I was a real radio newbie around 2009, I recall there was a huge windstorm that took down the 75 ohm UHF TV Yagi in my QTH, which ended up on the ground in pieces. So what did I do? I tried hooking up some of these pieces. I think it was one of the director booms up on the base of my Sony ICF Shortwave 11 telescoping antenna with some random 75 ohm cables to see if reception improved. Chaz Tank, I'm going to have to make a list of the radios I have. I own at least 10 various car radios in the garage, including one from our 1967 Mustang. Wow. Grandparents RCA that tuned in London and Berlin World War II. Wow. Piece of history there. Call Icon says, Ditto, I also built the Radio Shack crystal kit, simple circuit, ferrite rod, coil, coupled capacitor, diode, and hairpiece. Can only pick up the closest AM station, but still cool considering no batteries. Absolutely. There was something cool about it. I tuned radio stations on it and I was like, wow, this is so cool. William Helms, I like to build a crystal set. A friend of mine who is moving to Coco from Orlando as a breadboard radio parts. I'd love to try that. I mean, it's fun. It's so much fun to play with all of that. So, pretty cool. E3 IEK says, I also tried hooking my RCR5 to the TV antenna's wall socket. Both experiences came up with no results, thankfully. Now I know better and only have to hear the embarrassment of my radio past. Oh, man, we did stuff. A funny story that I will give here is, we've all started somewhere. We didn't know better. I have this board, and I don't know from where it comes from, but the parts on the board are identified with names. So I have this board, and I'm playing around with it. There's all sorts of things. I'm trying to see if it reacts to anything that I do, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I probably burned it before anything else. But on the upper right side, there's a small little transformer, and it says on the top transformer. And the first thing that I think is, oh, a transformer. I can plug that into the wall socket. It's a transformer. That's going to work. I put the two wires. I have the socket put in the wall. So as soon as I put it on the wall, the transformer made a big blue flash. I heard poof, and all the house went dark. And first thing that I hear 2 seconds later is, Gilles, my mom's is saying, Gilles, what did you do? It couldn't be anybody else than me. It's like, Gilles, what did you do? I tried something. It obviously didn't work. Oh, man, there's a few things like that. That's like, man, you're so stupid. What do? You don't even know what that is exactly as a transformer, and you just plug it into a 120 volts wall socket. That was a nice firework in your home. Joel, is there a Radio Israel? There used to, but unfortunately not anymore. The best bet on shortwave for listening to anything probably is the BBC World Service, I would guess. Maybe Voice of America also. Chess Tank, when I got back into shortwave listening, I was amazed at the size and what all the current radios could do compared to the size and price of the 80s, 90s rigs. Yeah, that's also something that today is surprising, because anybody that comes from the 70s or 80s, radios were big. And one of the reasons radios were big also is that we don't think about that a lot. But think about that little Texan PL 330, for example. The majority of its circuit is made with chips. The silicon integrated 4734, 35 chip. I mean, just that. If you had to have that circuit and regular transistors, capacitors, and all the stuff we used back in the 70s, that would be a big board full of circuits, full of there were transistors everywhere. There would be tons of things. We don't think about that, but a lot of the radios back in the 70s and 80s were huge, because that circuit here, there's no chip for that. You got to have the 47 transistors and 22 capacitors and 40 resistors, and all have that hooked up on a circuit board, because that's the way we make a circuit back then. Where today, that thing is on a chip that's big like my little finger, and you need just a few extra parts around it, which again, many of them are chips also that have many parts in it. So radios got small because the circuits got small. You now have chips that do a million things, where back in the 70s, you wanted to have a PLL circuit, you got to do the PLL circuit with all the transistors and you need all the parts. You have to expand that thing. A great example of that is the Kenwood R5000. When you look at the circuit boards, it's a radio from 1980, late 80s. It still has a lot of its circuits needs to have, capacitors, transistors, and all of that, and the inductors and whatever, because there's no chip equivalent to make that circuit from that time. So that makes huge boards full of parts, because today those same huge circuits are done with one or two chips on a board with a little bit of extra stuff around it to make it better, and that's it. So it makes all the stuff really, really small today, and we don't think about that a lot. Iowa Hank, yeah, I know. That is the sad part of not being able to have time travel, because I started a hobby in 1980, but I would so much love to experience the evolution, from the 1920s and up to today, all the changes, all the things that happened, what shortwave was like in 1940 and 1950, 1960, all the things we could hear. And imagine doing that trip in time with a good, decent radio. Imagine bringing an SDR, a laptop, and listening to the radio waves of the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Of course, you can't show that to anybody, because they're all going to go crazy and think that you're some kind of guy from the future, which you are. Imagine showing a SDR to somebody in 1950. Oh, man. First of all, they're going to wonder why that screen is this thin instead of that big thing. And why is it in color? There's no color in 1945 or something, Imagine listening. I was watching the the World War II documentary on Netflix. And one thing that came to mind while watching all of that is, imagine all the communications and stuff you could catch on an SDR that had to do with the Second World War, for example. It's just crazy. Just crazy. Just so crazy. You know? Man, that must be something. Bestest Times Reborn. That's why people like you are here, to teach us what radios are good and at a budget price. Yep. And that's the main drive of this channel is I want to talk about the radios. I can talk about more expensive ones. I'll be talking about the H501X, which is an expensive one. But I want to also keep the idea that you can have a decent radio for a small amount of money, which for a lot of people is what they're going to get. I'm on MBZ. I remember the old Marconi marine boat anchors from the mid 20th century. They would drift. They weren't anything like as selective as a D808 or a Texan PL330. Absolutely. And I mean, the price went with it. I mean, these radios, today's price would be more than $1,000. It's crazy, you know. Sid, D808 ain't bad. I can pull in Cuba and Canadian Atis here in the UK. So cool. No, it's a very decent radio and a very sensitive radio too. Dimitri, Nashville, Tennessee area. What do you have? At 1490 AM, 9 PM, 9955, Calvin Harris, South America, 7780 kilohertz to North America, 9395 for shortwave broadcast stations. Cool. Important is to have fun with whatever you have, and that's the important thing. Nice to have you here, Bestest Times Reborn from Australia. Tristan says you'll have to get HD makeup for the radios. Yeah, I don't even wear makeup here, so it's like, you know what? That's where when somebody tells me, it's like, hey, I'm watching your face on a 75-inch TV. I'm like, oh God, please don't tell me that. Oh God. Michael Thompson, we had the same kind of mall. Oh, you know what? Bestest Times, thanks for that. I don't know why it didn't came to mind. You are right. Get photos and videos before it closes. You are right. Because that's going to be souvenirs. I don't have any pictures of that place. That's going to make souvenirs. I mean, that mall has a lot of souvenirs for me. It's the mall I went to when I was young. My sister, so you guys know there's my sister, Joanne, that died from cancer in 2011. But my other sister, Carole, which is still alive, she would come and spend a weekend about 2 or 3 times a year with my mom, and we would go to the mall. It was, she wanted to go to that mall all the time, and that was the mall because when that mall opened, it was an outside mall. And in the 70s, they actually make it bigger and they actually covered it. It was an interior mall suddenly. And my sister says, I'm sad because that was the mall that I would go as a teenager, buy my stuff, buy my dress and buy all sorts of things. Same for me. It's the place where I was going when I was young. The mall was the place, when you have money, the mall was the place you'd go. And there was these stores. There was a Woolworth with all sorts of things. There was the Canadian Tire equivalent called Pascal in that time. Today is Canadian Tire. I remember there was a few stores that I would go to with all sorts of things to check out. There was an arcade. When I was a teenager, it was an arcade also. There was a music store. I would go buy my 45 RPMs. In my records of all sorts. And I mean, that was my teenage years at the mall. it's it's a piece of history of my past that it's going away. It's sad that it's going away. Even though I don't go, almost never go today because today's mall is boring. It's like all these 80% is women's clothing first of all, and the rest of it is maybe that's why girls like shopping. I don't know, because it's like there's tons of things for all the women's clothing stuff and so on. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing there for a guy. I mean, the source isn't Radio Shack, and it's a boring store today. There's nothing interesting at the source. It's really not Radio Shack. If I have to go to a store to watch big screen TVs, I'm going to go to a big screen TV store. Today is different, and I don't really go there much because it's a boring place. But I will go and take pictures and take videos. You are totally right. I need to do that. Thanks for the heads up on that. Madrid EXer UK, a cheap Texan PL9390 has very narrow bandwidth filters, something only found on expensive desktop receivers in the past. Absolutely. Once again, how many in the past you had to pay on? Look at that. There's a strong.
The West Coast in there, but it wasn't. I got that damn island in my ear. Feeding around the state of Maine, 434, Southern New Jersey's reading this mail.
Southern New Jersey. That guy was strong. That guy was powerful.
Yeah, 410 rides right on the 4 Elm on the flat side, man. Well, you sounded good down around New Jersey, no doubt, man. Enjoy the evening. Enjoy the Mother Nature. You got it by the hand right now. 434 New Jersey, Dade-Meade County's back on the mail.
Look at that. That guy in New Jersey, super powerful on Channel 6. Man, wow. I'm amazed. This is when skip happens, guys. But imagine the radios today with all the selectable bandwidths and stuff. Crazy. Trustin did the ETM scan on the PL380, got 36 hits. Should be a nice evening for Shortwave. Cool. Madrid the Xer. We also had Woolworths here in the UK, a good place for sweets. There was also, I liked that place because it was like all sorts of things. It was clothing, it was sweets, it was games. There were even some records you could buy. It was like a mix of all sorts of things. I don't know in the UK that was like that. Here, our Woolworths had a restaurant that looked like a cafeteria in the back. So you would go to Woolworths, and my dad, for some reason that I don't know, always wanted to go eat there. So when we would go to the mall as a family, most of the time we ended up at Woolworths restaurant because my dad wanted to have lunch. And I just, hang around and watch all the stuff there. And, I would probably, most of the times I'd purchase some junk or something there. What else do we have? Joel, Texan PL330 or new Chinese Malachite DSP. If you have the money for the Chinese Malachite DSP and the good one, you should go for a Texan PL990X. I've seen enough to not really tell people to buy the Chinese one, but everybody that has a good working Chinese one will tell you that it's darn good. But as long as you get the one that's higher end, and it's very important because all the reviews of the junks of Chinese versions are reviews of the cheap one. And that one is not worth at all its price. RJ David Spears, nice to have you here. RJ88 Dakota says we had Woolworths and St. Louis, but it also more like the dollar store, but it did have some nice things. Yeah, it was it was a kind of a low priced thing. Woolworths was, you would go there for cheap stuff. That was the Woolworth basically. It is a lot of cheap stuff. It was a little more expensive than dollar store stuff, but it definitely was. You were not getting high-end stuff there. That's definite. But you found stuff there that was kind of interesting. I have a couple of QSLs from Call Israel also. Maxi76, I wonder how many times Joe was grounded as a child for experimenting with radios. Not just radios, man. Imagine when I had my chemistry and physics, my physics sets. Oh man, I almost set the house on fire once. I can tell you that one wasn't funny. My dad was mad as hell. I can tell you that. That one I still remember today, and it was not a funny time to go through. Mike Dovis, good afternoon. Nice to have you here. Danny Shortwave Radio DX, nice to have you here from sunny and warm Claremont, Florida. He's there for a week. Cool. Enjoy your time there. Mobile Armored Strike Command. Enjoyed designing circuits when I went to college to get an electronics engineering degree. Cool. RJD Dakota, the circuit for the RF 2200 was interesting and intense. PL 880 is as different as night and day. Yep. Absolutely. Tristan, one of the bottlenecks with modern small radio is a small speaker. Yeah, that definitely plays a certain role, but there's ways to actually counter that if you design a sound box, which means you could design technically a portable to be a sound resonance cage. And that's where the Chinese malahite that I have here, that's why it has such a nice, powerful audio. The box that they put it in, they thought about that box being also a resonant cage for sound, for the audio, to make it rich and very powerful. They technically could design it in that way in a portable radio, even if it has a small speaker. An example of that is the TFDL V115. For a $20 radio, I think we can all say that it is the radio that has the best sounding audio of even more expensive portables. And yes, in the 60s, radios weighed fun. Once again, because a lot, and especially back in the 50s and 60s, a lot of the frames and a lot of the interior were made of metal. You know, I look at the American 5-tube receivers. I'm surprised not that you know there weren't more people dying electrocuted by the radios back then. These things are live crap. I mean, the frame is directly, on a 120 volts circuit. You touch the frame and touch something else, and man, you're getting zapped. I'm surprised not more people died of those old radios back then. Jason V9JMC says, my great aunt died in 1989 and she died at the age of 99. Imagine all the technological changes she was able to witness through her years. I think about that sometimes. So my dad is still alive. My dad is 91 years old. And I mean, born in 1930. Imagine from when he started to witness the changes and the things around until today. And my dad is a curious guy. That's why I had radios and computers, because he would buy all this stuff. And what I see is that, he witnessed a million things that I never did, with technology advancing all the time. And when he had the money, I know he purchased a lot of stuff. Danny Shortwave says, trying out the MLA 30 Plus stock with no mods right outside the house in Central Florida, picking up a lot of Cuban medium wave stations at night using the RSPDX. Mitalunar says, would love to have heard some of the very first broadcasts in the very early days. Also, totally. And there's a lot online, though. You can go online. There's a lot of places with old recordings. But man, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Sid says I would have loved the 50s with my laptop and RSP1A. Oh man, imagine. And imagine all the signals. Here is like, oh, there's a signal there. It's like in 1950, it's like there's signals everywhere. I don't even know what to click anymore. VA2WLT Walter. Don't forget that every connection between each part are miniature antennas that have the potential of introducing internal noise. Today's receivers are a lot quieter. Yep, absolutely. There's a lot of design, and that's why a lot of radios were built with heavy metal casings back then, because they had to be free of all the outdoor RFI that could actually reach the internal circuitry. Or JD Dakota says, and the original idea for color TV was made in 1953, but really didn't catch until 1960s. Incredible. And now I have 4K HD. Yeah, it's 4K TV here. It's like, yeah. And that's another example of how our technology came to a price point where it's like everybody's got a big screen TV for nothing. I still remember in 1980, my dad purchased a 20-inch TV. 20-inch was the standard TV for a lot of people. It was what we considered to be a decently sized television. But I mean, a 20-inch TV in 1980 was, $300, and if not more. And if you were lucky, you had it. We had one which was a used one. One of my uncles repaired TVs, and one guy that actually had sent is 26-inch in a wooden cabinet. Never got back to get it because I guess he didn't have the money to pay for the repairs. So my uncle would keep it for a while, and after some time, it was written on the receipt, if you don't come and take it back within 90 days, you lost it. It's not yours anymore. And I remember my dad had purchased a 26-inch color TV back then. Hey, man, 26-inch was huge for 1979, 1980. And imagine today, that's a 55-inch right here. And I paid $400 and something for it. And it's a smart TV which has apps in it. It's an Android TV. I can add Android apps to it. I even play games, Android games. I installed the Plant vs. Zombies on that thing. It's like, look at what you have. And it's a 4K and everything. Look at what you have. Yes, it's not a high-end 4K. And you could see it. If you look at a $2,000 TV, yes, you do see a difference. But, I mean, look at what you got today for the price. TVs are another example of prices are so low now. You have a decent TV for, a handful of change. Chastang, just imagine you could have tuned in the coast watchers watching Japanese shipping, German U-boats off the USA coast, the Blitz, so many things. Yep, absolutely. That's crazy. Blind Picker, I'm 52 years old. I turned 52 in March. I was born in 1969. Alan Endelman Show. What was the first 45 and album you bought? So I am a very versatile type guy in music. My first 45 that I purchased was Physical by Olivia Newton-John. The funny story about it is that me and my friend that lived at Corner Street, we would always go buy our 45s together. We were both, loved music. So, and we would often buy the same music most of the time. And I remember so every week we would go and look at music and stuff. And so when we decided we'd buy the 45 for physical, he said, yeah, we're going to go. When the time came up, it's like, okay, so we're going tonight. He says, no, I can't. We're going to, an uncle's house or something. It's like, I won't be available. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go buy it. And, when you have time, we meet up 3 days later. I got mine. He's got his. I got the one with the very sexy front where Olivia Newton-John is like in a river in a very light. It's not a bad taste. It's a beautiful picture. It's the way it's made is very nice, but it's sexy. He gets to my house with his, and it's the white paper sleeve, nothing more. And I'm like, you got a white paper sleeve? I got this. And I'm showing him my sleeve, and he's like, I want it. It's like, yeah, I bet you want it. She's super sexy. And imagine, a young teenage boy. So I'm like all proud because I've got the sexy sleeve for my 45 with Olivia Newton-John. And he's got the little white one with nothing on it. And it's like, I'm laughing my head off. And he's super mad because he didn't get the sexy one. My first album was Meet the Beatles. And I probably was 12 years old. About 12 years old. 1980, 81, around there. So, and I think, we were talking about Woolworths. I think that's where I got it. There were albums there, and I loved, every time I'd hear Beatles songs, I would like them. So when I saw the album Meet the Beatles, I was like, oh, I'm going to buy Meet the Beatles, which I listened to over and over and over again. So these were my first two, my first 45 and my first album. Then, of course, I bought thousands of LPs. I was the odd guy because everybody and all of my friends and everybody would buy cassettes, 4-track cassettes. And I would not. I would always buy my vinyl records. And they were all like, why do you buy vinyl records? Because I like vinyl records. I like the big record with the big booklet and the information and the pictures. It's fun. I don't have to rewind the darn tape. I remember one of my friends was like, oh, you're going to hear that? And it's like, rewind. It's like, yawn. Here, look, I take the needle and I do this. Here we go. We started again. That was also one of the reasons. And I would tell my friends, like, I buy vinyl. I got a tape deck. I want to have music. I make myself a mix cassette, which is more fun anyways. So, but I was the only one buying vinyl. Everybody around me back in the teenage years, they were almost all buying 4-track cassettes. One of my best friends was a member of that Columbia Records Club thing that, you get these 11 cassettes for free, but you got to buy 10 more at a very ridiculous high price. And man, I was a vinyl guy, always. I still have a lot of vinyls here, and I have the record player, everything. What else we have? RJ Dakota, which in even the 80s was impossible to live in an age of magic. Absolutely. Metal Lunar, don't know any stores that are as fun as to browse as Radio Shack used to be. Yeah, there's not a lot. Here, I'm lucky. I've got Addison's Electronics not far from where I live, which has interesting stuff. There's a lot of it's halfway a Radio Shack in a certain sense, but we're losing out of that, Todd says, anybody into TVDXing? I used to in the analog days, for sure. Sid, Woolworths, the same company as it was in the UK that went bump. Yep, and disappeared in the 80s, right? Somewhere in the late 80s or early 90s at most. Suddenly went down the drain and it just disappeared. Chastain, Caledon's Castle is a big mall arcade here. Beethoven Records, Orange Julius, JCPenney, and Sears were the big anchors. Radio Shack, Spencer's always had very odd but interesting stuff. KW1161, late greetings. Nice to have you here from sunny Tucson, Arizona. Levi Nathan, nice to have you here from Israel. Yeah, nice guy from New Jersey. Eh? Bestest Times says Australia has Woolworths, but it's a supermarket. Oh, okay. For us, it was a general store, a little bit like a dollar store, but with all sorts of things. It was a little more. It was higher price than a dollar store would be, but it was still cheap stuff. Our JDA Dakota in St. Louis, we had Sticks, Bauer, and Fuller, and Famous Bar. We had Sears, JCPenney. Yeah, Sears was a big thing here too. My mom would buy everything with the Sears catalog. And as a kid, I would drool over the Christmas edition of the Sears catalog with all the games and all the stuff that was in there. I would drool over the Sears catalog Christmas edition as much as I would drool over the Radio Shack catalog every year, pretty much. Yeah, it's all gone here too, Danny Shortwave. It was something big until, I would guess, the late 80s, pretty much when it disappeared. Tim in Texas, we had Woolworths in Ohio in the 60s, and they did have a good lunch counter. Oh, Woolco. Yep. There was a Woolco also. I remember Woolco when we would go there. What I remember of the Woolco is that my sister would go there with my mom, and I would be going with them because I would take care of my nephews and nieces that were 6, 7 years old, even less, maybe 3 or 4 years old at the time. And my sister was happy that I was there because I was taking care of my small nephews and nieces. And I still remember that the Woolco here, where we would go, had this pattern on the floor, which was black and white squares, like a chess game. It was all over the place, black and white squares. And today, that Woolco that was there is a Walmart here, which they destroyed the mall and they recreated stores, and it's a big Walmart. But even if it's a Walmart, when I go there, maybe it's because of the area where it is, when I get in, I sometimes get the feel of back when I was young and the black and white tiles on the floor for some reason. It's like it's bringing me back to some of the times when my sister came over and we'd go shopping together. So it's pretty crazy. Rich, Woolworths had the best grilled cheese sandwich, oozing with butter, baby. Then off to the fish tanks and pet mice after the climb into the photo booth if we had coins and get strip film photos. Yeah, I remember the photo booth. There was a photo booth there. Oh, man. Crazy. Dang. Oh, man. Christian Marcoux, D808, 330, 600, 660, 680. Skywave, which ones do you think sounds better? 680. For sound quality, 680 or 660 probably, also because of the bigger speaker in it. So richer audio, better audio. The Texan 660, 680. Skywave is very thinny. The CC Skywave SSB speaker is way too small. 330 is very surprising for the size. So I would say that for the size, it's a win. D808 doesn't sound bad. Doesn't sound bad at all. Yeah, the All-American 5s were very dangerous. Absolutely, RJ Dakota. Canadian Radio TV guy says, I've been shocked with 300 volts AC with an old Sears tube radio from the rectifier tube. Ouch. Matt says, I was lucky to know a few of my 19th century born great-grandparents. Those people witnessed changes for sure, from no electricity or cars to space age and home computers in one lifetime. I mean, imagine all of that. Even I, at 50, witnessed the computer revolution and the miniature electronics of today, which is already a big push forward, moving from big CRT TVs to, LCD screens that are thin, and it's crazy. The internet, moving from logging into a BBS with my 300 baud modem into now high-speed internet, and this guy from Canada in HD doing a live show from his home in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, that an international audience, would you guys have thought that that was possible 20 years ago, 30 years ago? That some guy in his home with very modest equipment does this show that everybody's watching around the world. Isn't that amazing? It is amazing. Pretty crazy. Chastang, that's a lost art. TV repair guys. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Metal Lunar, I was always surprised how many electronics repairmen would keep back in the day from customers that never came back to pay or pick them up. Yep. A lot of it. I remember he had his shop. He was out of town, just up north in a place called Sainte-Thérèse. He had a pretty big shop, and he was kind of the guy. Everybody there knew that was the guy to go to. And there was so much stuff in his repair shop. And I remember one day he looked at me, he said, half of the stuff here that I'm selling, it's people that, made me repair the thing, never came back to pick it up. Then Shortwave says, paid around $500 for a 27-inch Fisher TV back in 92. I had to do a layaway. It took a few weeks to fully pay it. I had that TV for almost 20 years. Yeah. K1161. Remember my dad's 25-inch Curtis Mattis 3000 used. Whoa. Crazy. Crazy. Marlboro Armor Strike Command. According to an article that I read back in 99, the article was stating about the future of television. By 2020, we were supposed to have holographic television. Yeah. Farrah Fawcett poster. Oh, God. I'm of the generation of everybody going crazy over, what was her name? She was an 80s pop music icon that ended up in the Penthouse magazine or something. What was her name? I have her face in my head, but I don't remember. I can't remember the name. She had a couple of hits. That was the teenage craze of my generation. Franco AC says, loves the vinyl Fock, 50 years old and still have records I bought as a teenager. I have an old Bang and Osmondson Biogram. Allwords was great too. Nostalgia. Absolutely. Bruce Marcotte says, I have the original serial numbered Beatles White Album. I bought it new and I think it has been played maybe 5 times. Oh, wow. At JDA Dakota, late 70s, I mixed a lot of music onto cassette tape from vinyl. Danny Shortwave, I used to do that Columbia CD stuff by using fake names, do it over and over. Got a bunch of CDs. Oh, God. Et TVDXer. Ça te rappelle des souvenirs, TVDXer? Alan Schofield. Still have all my LPs and still play them. Also have 2 or 3 cassette cases of the tapes I used to ride around with when I was a teenager. 54 now. Not all the tapes still play. My collection of LPs that I have here is a mix of what I purchased and a lot of my mom's stuff. So I got things like, the greatest hits of 1958, for example, and original albums from like, man, I'm trying to remember the names of some artists, but Doris Day and stuff like that. Brian Penny, nice to have you on board from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Sid, fair play, Jill. I've still got my record player. Love hunting around junk shops for old LPs. I used to like that when I got my new sound system in the early 90s that I still have here, a Fisher Studio Standard. I would go downtown. There was a place downtown that had cheap books, and I remember that they had 45s. Now they were all in a bunch, no sleeves, nothing, all in a big bunch. And they had 45s for 10 cents each. And I would go through that. I would spend an afternoon going through all the 45s that I'd seen there and look at their quality, look if they're scratched. And I'd end up probably in one afternoon coming back home with maybe 40 or 50 45s that I'd paid 10 cents each. It was amazing. It was crazy. It was so crazy. The bra section. Yeah, boys will be boys. So, looking at the underwear section was probably another part where it was like, okay. Kids, especially guys. It's probably more of a guy thing, I would guess. I don't know. I'd be curious. Did women look at the men's underwear section in the Sears catalog? I'd be curious to know that. We never hear about that side of the story. We always hear about the guy side of the story, looking at, the catalogs for that reason, but we never hear the women's side of of the story of that. Maybe we should have a different type of show for that type of questioning. Oh, man. Did you have Lafayette Radio? I love these catalogs. We had one here a long time ago. Robert Osborne, I think I've got the Voice of Turkey 9830. Yep, 9830 is their frequency. You probably have it. It's English broadcast at this time. Probably ended a few minutes ago, actually. Keegan says, my dad, 39 JEF, born in the late 30s. Chaz Tank still has the stereo i5 stereo, huge speakers. Yeah, I still have it. I still have it here. I got my 2 huge speakers, 100 watts per channel. That's what I had. So many things back then. Tom the Xer's got a bunch of LPs and 45 somewhere down in the basement. Pretty crazy. Nostalgic times, eh? Olympic 65 never thought Woolworths here in Cleveland area would seem like a lost treasure. Even Sears gone now. Please join me in boycott Walmart. Just not worth it. Yeah. Here there was a big, when Walmart came to Canada, there was a huge protest. There were so many people that just didn't want to have Walmarts come to Canada. It's crazy. Bruce Marcotte built first computer in 1981. Yep. Mad Reader DX, you're watching Gilles via satellite, then yes, but over a computer? No way. Oh, God. Oh, God. Mark Dreger says, my uncle was born in a sod hut on Prairie in 1898. Wow, in winter. Wow, that must have been rough. Blind Picker, geez. We have a lot in common. I'm about the same age. 300 baud modem BBS. Yep, on my Commodore computer. Still remember. Oh, man. Samantha Fox. Thank you, Danny Shortwave. Samantha Fox. That's what that's who I was thinking of. Samantha Fox. That was a teenage boy's fantasy probably back in the 80s. TVDXer, I wish you'd have been around in the 80s to do this show. Yep. Imagine if this would have existed back then. Would have been crazy, eh? Would have been crazy. Bernie Dodge, my mom postponed getting a color TV until 1980 because they weren't perfect yet. Oh, God. I don't know how much I had to beg for my mom to get cable TV. I still remember me and my brother, like, can we get cable TV? Can we get cable TV? Can we get cable TV? I want to have cable TV. Please give me cable TV. And then one day she caved in and we had cable TV. Oh, man, that was a revolution also. Cable TV. Today, cable TV is crap. X80X says, my dad, W9JEF, was a TV repairman in his hometown, Green Bay, Wisconsin, in the 60s. Cool. John Doe, I enlarged my record collection. So I lost most of my records from moving to the last place to here because vinyl records are extremely heavy. I called a few friends that love music and said, take what you want, which is 90% of everything I owned. But at one point, probably easily, I had more than 1,000. That's for sure. I had quite a lot of them. Yep, TVs don't get hot anymore. Absolutely. Oh, man. Glenn, I was born in April of 41. I knew a little of World War II, then Korea, and then I started my turn to fight in the 60s until 67, then again 80 to 01. Saw lots of changes in that time. Yep, absolutely. Pretty crazy. I was one of the first ones also, and all of my friends that had a CD burner. It came with a HP desktop that I had back then, which was what was it? Like 2x was the base speed. It took like 20 minutes to do just one CD because it was so slow. Oh, God. And then I didn't know what to do with that CD burner, actually, until something came up. And Napster appeared, and that was Napster, CD burner. Oh, man, I'm going to make a lot of stuff here. That's also a revolution in its own. Even the computer revolution, the PC, moving from a Commodore VIC-20 to a Commodore 128 to an Amiga 500 to my first PC XT, then a 286, then a 486. Then a Pentium, from DOS to Windows. Still remember the first video I've seen on a screen was like, wow, video on a computer screen. This is so cool. Yeah, we got that all the time now. Incredible times that we've gone through, and shortwave is no exception. I mean, we've got radios, amazing radios for like almost nothing today. MDK2, I've got a sizable vinyl collection. Not sure how many LPs at this point, but safe to say between 1,000 and 2,000. That's a pretty good collection, actually. So, hey guys, 3 hours and 4 minutes, and I have a chicken pot pie that is about to be ready in about 5 or 10 minutes. So that's what I'm going to eat. And I'm going to open a probably beer number 2, eat chicken pot pie, start listening to Shortwave. If you're on the Facebook group, then that's where I'm going to go post some of the stuff that I am listening tonight. Thank you so much for being here. It's extremely nice. It was very, very cool to have all of you here, as usual. It's really cool to have everybody here. Thanks for being great fans. Thanks for real nice discussions tonight and real nice moments and some nostalgia of. And, it's fun because you talk about a store or a chain and you're not really sure if it existed somewhere else. And it's nice to see that Woolworth was kind of a big thing pretty much all over the place. So I'll change do a little change here. We're going to do just a little change in mood lighting. And we're going to, here we go, a little bluish lighting here. And there we go, guys. This is going to be more of the ambiance of the evening in this blue light. And we are going to play our little song for the end. Take care, everybody. Love you all. Really, it's a lot of fun to do this show. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that you guys are also a lot of fun to have discussions and to be here in interacting with me. So with this bluish light, we're now going to end with Moscow Nights. Rhymes, actually. And I'll repeat what I did on, Wednesday? This is Radio Moscow World Service. We are on 27 different frequencies, including 50 extra frequencies for the woodpecker. So take care, guys. Take care, John Brown, KS4WW. Hey, it's Disco Moon. Russian girls and dollar vodka shots. tantôt, TVDXer, fais attention à toi, un mercredi. Oh, that'd be great. We're going to check for David CQ's in Barcelona. Love you all. Take care, guys.